All right, man. Sounds really good that you're wanting to try out Fallout 3. It had been a long time since I actually played Fallout 3 or even modded it, and I mean like a very long time. I got so used to modding Fallout 4, I kind of stuck with it most of the time and really didn't think about any of the previous games. Um, so kind of bear with me. I'm kind of winging this, so I'm going to try to pull my thoughts together as I go. So I'm probably going to stumble a lot. I may even repeat some things, so I'm going to apologize in advance if I do. Okay. So looking at what you were saying, you were actually wanting to do Tale of Two Wastelands. Now, a long time ago, I was helping out the development team. I didn't do really much programming per se, and I didn't really have any experience looking at plugins or anything like that. And I think they needed a conversion program, something that could basically could batch convert audio files. And I wrote something like that. I looked at the file format and just kind of VB'd it up pretty quick. I don't know if it really helped. I think Roy Batty at the time said it did. And I started working on some modding for Vegas. I believe I had a Protectron called Mule, which was, I forget what it what it was. It stood for something. And when you come out of Vault 101, he was laying right there. He was actually delivering a message to Vault 101 before the bombs hit, or after the bombs hit, or something. And it was going to start this whole quest. And I think the quest was called A Very Vault-Tec Welcome. But I never really kind of completed it. But I worked on a lot of like different ideas, like repulsor fields and battery-powered power armor. I think I still have that mod somewhere. And it worked with the MCM and all that. Okay, so that being said, I don't have a lot of like modding experience with Fallout 3, so I thought, you know what, Fallout 4, it's going to take them a while to probably get that thing stabilized. I'm not sure what Bethesda's doing. I honestly and truly, I think they have their own agenda, but they're hiding their own personal agenda behind making their fan base believe they're giving them what they're asking for, but I don't think that's entirely true. If I know Bethesda correctly, or at least if I see if I'm going to assess what they're doing correctly. But all that aside, okay, here's Fallout 3. Now, I'm not familiar yet with Fallout Vegas. I haven't started modding it yet, so I'm not sure what mods are what, how many DLLs I can load. I do know that looking at the mods for Vegas, as far as stability mods, code that can be injected like through NVSE, things like that, and as far as extending the scripting capabilities of whatever they called it back then, the GEC or Papyrus or whatever they called their scripting language. I do know Vegas is farther along, and it looks like it's much farther along than anything that was developed for Fallout 3. So most of what I would do with Fallout 3, I mean, most of what I'm talking about is just basically the Fallout 3 program. It's going to be Fallout 3. It's not going to be like Vegas modded with Fallout 3. Now, with Tale of Two Wastelands, I believe all they did is they converted over the data files to a new version, because each program had its own version number. So the GEC wouldn't let you load a previous version and possibly something else, maybe a header ID or a previous version. So you couldn't load, let's say, in the New Vegas GEC, I don't think you can directly load Fallout 3. You might need a modified GEC or something like that. I'm not really sure. But I'm not really interested in doing that. So all they had to do is, I think the reason they chose that, this was a while back. God, this was a long time ago. The person who even started that project, which handed it down eventually, I don't know if Pinto Cat, or I don't know if he has it now. It's been such a long time. But I believe his idea was there wasn't a lot of structural differences in the files. If you want to look at the IFF part, you know, the little identifier chunks and the fields within those chunks, there wasn't a lot of difference between the two games. So therefore it would be easy to port Fallout 3 to New Vegas rather than trying to port Fallout 3 or Vegas up to Fallout 4, because there's a lot of file changes, like let's say your meshes and things like that. There's probably different nodes and different things you might not necessarily be able to programmatically add. Some of that would have to be manually added. I think as far as trying to determine which nodes and how to intersect or interleave things inside of various nodes would probably be fairly difficult without some kind of node identifier, and even then it would be almost impossible to know which way to go with it, especially if it's like an attachment node. Like, for example, if you got a skeleton that now has an attachment point for a shield that didn't have it before, how do you know where on that skeleton to put it, as an example? So that's the reason I think they went with Tale of Two Wastelands. Okay, so if you want to do it that way, that would, and I've played Tale of Two Wastelands years ago. In fact, my mod was developed for TTW, because that was the more stable version. So if you compared Fallout 3 to Fallout New Vegas, Vegas in one way was more stable than Fallout 3, but in another was not. But there's a lot more stability mods, and I haven't checked these out yet, so I don't know which one necessarily to recommend. I'd have to throw them all in there, and then just to see if the thing floats, and then if it doesn't, if it goes Titanic, then I'm going to have to try to figure out, you know, which one was the iceberg. But like that being said, and I'll get to that eventually, and I'll eventually get to Oblivion and all that, but I just want to talk about Fallout 3. So with Fallout 3, if you can look over here, I've got from here to here, these are all the official files, okay? And then I have the official patch. So let me do that, and it's official patch. Now, there's two different types of official patches. And also, if you're going to do Fallout 3, I believe it's already rolled back. I think Bethesda actually updated the game, and when they did, it changed the version and broke everything. So I believe they rolled it back. I'm using the GOG version. I'm not using the Steam version. To me, I would recommend GOG over Steam, because GOG doesn't require DRM. They do updates a lot, especially with older games, to make sure they run on newer hardware. So I'm really kind of a fan of that service. But there's two different updates. There's the unofficial update, and there's the updated unofficial update. Now, I'm using the unofficial update, which usually comes from, I can't think of the guy's name. I don't think it's not Gopher. Is it Gopher? I forget the team that does it. Yeah, they're the ones that usually are involved with the patches. I'm trying to think of his website. Yeah, it doesn't come to mind right off the bat. But I've been there, and I think I've signed up with it. But there's two different patches. The updated is probably the one I would recommend. I'm not sure which one it's going to work, like which mods the updated unofficial is going to work with. So to start out with, I went with just the unofficial, but I would almost recommend going with the updated. Now with TTW, I'm assuming they're going to have a patch for that. I'm not entirely sure, because generally I don't think you can load Fallout 3 plugins directly into Fallout Vegas, although you might be able to. I want to say no. So I think, like I say, part of it I think is a version problem and a header. It's the difference in the headers. And then, okay, so like if you're just gonna go Fallout 3, I would go Fallout 3, and then if you want to do TTW, that's fine. I haven't done it in a while, so I'd have to actually download the program, make the conversions, and then get it up and running. But I'm going to have to load, I plan on loading Vegas down with a lot of fix mods, including a lot of DLLs. So I'm going to try to get that base up and running first before I really load the engine out. But a couple things I thought I might point out is the difference between the unofficial patch and the updated. If you go with the updated, you have to make sure that whatever mods you do have patches for the updated, because I'm not sure what things they change. And I haven't done this with my load order, but I would definitely consider going in and doing a clean on the plugins to remove any ITMs identical to master records, just in case. Normally those shouldn't carry over because if things get updated and then it turns right around and does an identical to master, it's gonna obliterate whatever changes came before it. But one of the things I would like to show you up here in the DLLs. Now these are loaded. These files here are loaded through the script extender like Fossee, and Fossee. The reason Fossee works okay, or the script extenders work okay, is because you use a loader. So you actually fire off the game loader, like I think it's like Fossee loader, and then that will load Fallout 3 and then link, I guess it links itself into the executable. So I'm assuming it does it dynamically when it runs. So that's what Fossee does. Whereas if you're using like Reshade or some other type of DLL, then it's either going to, like with Reshade, it gets loaded as a pseudo graphic driver, because it looks, I'm assuming the operating system will look for certain things, like certain DLLs to load, be it graphic drivers, input, like any type of input appies, any DirectX input appies, like keyboard, things like that, mouse, sound, stuff like that. So that's why Fossee generally seems to work. One of the things I had to do with Fossee was I had to go to the Fossee website, Silverlock, and I had to download the latest version. I got a lot of crashes just trying to get the game to run, and I think it was right after, I don't even think it ran, I think it crashed before I even got a slide screen. So I had to go to, I just went to Silverlock, I think it's silverlock.org, and you download the latest Fossee. And I think what was on the Nexus was not the latest, and they had like a little latest version. That one seemed to work. Okay, so I could at least make it to the loading screen. Now with my setup, I've got a fairly large display. It's actually 32 by 9. So Fallout 3 does not like the resolution, the width and height definition for 32 by 9. It can handle 16 by 9, does not like 32 by 9. It will crash. In order to get that to work, and especially to work, because I could actually get to the slideshow, but then when I went to actually start the game, when it would start any type of FMV, full motion video, like the little intro, I don't want to set the world, that World on Fire, that thing, it would crash. So in order to get that to run, I had to actually install, it was, let me see, let me look it up here. Let's see. I wasn't commanding, it sure wasn't that. Alright, let's go look over this way. Let me grab this. It was this right here. Okay, see where it says D3 D9 DLL? That was something. If you go not this, if you go look in Fallout 3, we're gonna go over here to Fallout 3 real quick. One of the things I do sometimes, I'll go over here and I'll just take a look at Fossee, just Fossee, and then it'll show me, and I'll search based on endorsements. So these should be things that require the Fallout script extender. What I needed was, let me find it real quick. I've got Iron Sights installed. Let's see. Where is it? It should be, I thought it was going to be up here. It was going to be up here somewhere. Alright, let's take a look. It was something that was required to get the resolution to work. Let's see. Let's see if we can find ultra widescreen here. One of the things that was required for ultra widescreen was this black triangle fix. I had to put that in, but Stewie Tweaks has that. But what I'm looking for is there is a DLL, and I don't quite recall the name of it, that would allow the game to work with newer graphic cards and newer graphic drivers. I don't think this is it. Let me see. I thought it was something like, I thought it had something like, would work with newer graphic cards. Yeah, I think I had, I don't know if this was, I don't know if this was a bypass package, but whichever one it was, I had to install that particular file to get the game to actually not crash. So I had to get the latest version of FOSSEE from silverlock.org, and I had to get whichever one it is. It's whatever installed this. It's probably over here somewhere. Let me try it like this. It's not ultra-wide scopes. There's only one of those. Let's try screen. Alright, there's 3. Let's find the next one. Here you go. I think it's high-resolution screen. This is probably the one I'm referring to. So if I go over here, let's see here if this is what I'm looking for. No, that one is for, yeah, I think I have the high resolution. I think I have these two. I think I have this one. So yeah, it's a Stewie deal. One of these things actually increases the, it allows ultra wide screen to work. So let me see if I can do this. Windows 10 fix, that should be it, right? It should be this one right here. Should be that one. So let's see if we can get this to work now. Alright, let's go to, alright, here we go. I had to install this one, Fallout 3 Windows 10 fix. Otherwise, it would not allow me, it would crash. It wouldn't allow me to use my current graphics driver. I'm not sure what it does exactly, or, you know, if it reduces the instruction set or something, I'm not really entirely sure. Now, back onto Fallout Vegas, I think they have a whole new set of shaders, a whole new set of everything, so you can really, really trick that game out. But it's going to be a little bit more, I think, time-consuming and a little bit more technical to get everything kind of really tricked out on it. But with this, I had to definitely install this thing here, and that is what this file right here is. That is this file here. That's this D3 D9 DLL. That is that. Now, I wanted to install Reshade, and once you install Reshade, it actually creates the same file, because when this game loads, the operating system says, oh, D3 D9 DLL, well, that's a Windows API, so I need to get it loaded because that's part of the API that allows you to, if I'm not mistaken, draw graphics. And graphics is a very broad term. So it lets you to, you know, draw graphics and do a lot of other things. I believe there's mouse input, things like that all go with it. And that's the version for probably back in Windows 7. Or maybe even, yeah, XP. That's probably back as far as XP. So Reshade has the exact same name as this. So the problem with that is that when I tried to install Reshade, Reshade said I can't install myself because D3 D9 DLL already exists. And that was from this Windows fix here. And I couldn't get rid of that because it will not run unless I have that in there. Now, there may be another way to fix this. I haven't tinkered around and figured it out. I just kind of like, I'm bored. I want to get this thing running as quick as possible so I can play the game, and that's kind of what I did. So what I had to do is find a way to get Reshade to run. So there can only be one D3 D9 DLL. Now, Reshade hooks into the graphic API. Whereas this thing, I think, intercepts it intercepts something and tricks the system into thinking that it's an older graphics card. So I couldn't change the name of this, but I could change the name of Reshade. So Reshade is down here. So instead of calling it Reshade DLL, I had to find a way to get Reshade loaded, because once it loads and runs, it hooks itself in somehow to the graphic API. Probably inserts itself in the shader cache or something. So I'm thinking, how do I get this to run? So I need to get this to load. So what I needed was an ASI loader. And the ASI loader was, again, a file that the game is going to, that the operating system is going to run when the game is loaded, and that turned out to be dinput8 DLL. So there is ASI loaders that work with a lot of other games, and all it does is, the name of the file is this. So the operating system says, oh, I'm getting ready to run Fallout 3. There's some DLLs in the root directory where the game is. I'm going to go ahead and load those and, and link those to the game itself when it's running. So normally I'm assuming dinput has to do with some type of input, whether it's mouse, keyboard, joystick, or, a little wireless controller, whatever. But instead, this is actually an ASI loader. And what this program does when it runs, when this thing runs, it actually looks in the root folder for everything that ends in .asi. That's why they call it an ASI loader. So if you notice, Reshade up here ends in a .asi. Let's see if we do like properties here. See, it ends in a .asi. It's an ASI file. And this is just Windows way. You could call it an XYZ file, and it'll actually say it's an XYZ file. So it's an ASI. So what it does, it looks in the root directory for all files that are ASI, and then it loads and links them in, and therefore Reshade gets linked. So with this, it's not too complicated. What I would do is install Reshade first, and then I would rename it to just whatever you want ASI. You could put my Reshade ASI, that's the executable. I left it Reshade, the file name Reshade, and I changed the extension from .dll to .asi. And then when I installed an ASI loader, and it gives you a bunch of options to install them, and you can even, they do have a D3, D9, DLL, but it's all the same thing. It's just a different file name that the operating system goes, oh, D3, D9, that's one of mine. It doesn't necessarily check to see if the footprint of the file matches or the hash. It just says, oh, that's one of mine, going to launch it off. And that's what the operating system, I believe, does. Or the application could do it too if it looks for it locally. All right, so anyways, so what I would do is I would install Reshade first, and then you could see where it would come. It's going to install it as D3, D9, DLL, rename that to Reshade ASI. So up here we got Reshade ASI. You want to rename it to that. Then you can install your ASI loader, and that's here. It's the dinput. They have a dinput DLL and dinput8. You're going to want dinput8. So the dinput8 is the ASI loader that's going to get linked and launched, and then it's going to load Reshade down here. It doesn't even know what Reshade is. It doesn't care. It just knows it's a it just knows the file extension says .asi. It's going to load and link it up. And then that leaves D3, D9 available for that Windows 10 fix. Because like I say, it crashes without it. Especially if you go in and you set your resolution to, I think it's saying, so 144, up, not 1550, 144, there we go. Especially if you set your resolution to let's see, it should be in here somewhere. Here we go. So you can see here, and in this particular application, anything that's purple, if I have a default for it, it'll tell me what the default is, and anything that's purple is something that's not default. So you can see that I'm using a 5120-1440, which is, that's the resolution of my screen. And without using that Windows 10 fix, it will crash at that resolution. It's a pain. But so that's pretty much how you want to do to get that running. You're also going to want something called Save Bloat Fix. That would be a definite one to get. I think there's a memory fix. I forget what that one does. NVAC, which is for New Vegas, does work, or I've heard it does work with Fallout 3, so I put it in there. Stewie Tweaks is one that he has like hundreds and hundreds of tweaks. Loot menu, that's the thing when you see me that it actually gives Fallout 3 a Fallout 4 loot menu interface. I have had some crashes down here. Other than this, when I was like stuck somewhere trying to figure out, like once I walked over or took my character over to a particular cell. Once I entered a particular cell, saving it was impossible. As long as I stayed away from that cell, it was fine. And that was what this is. I was trying to figure out which cell had the problem, how close I could get, and that was all of this. But if you look, there's some other ones. Let's see here. If you look, there's some other ones. That's a hover menu. I think I had more than one, because look, it had a 15, which is like an I don't know what the heck happened. So I'm just kind of barfing. I had one of these up here. I think this one right here is also menu related. This one. So, and this happens when I have multiple dudes on the ground and I'm scrolling, because it does look like it uses a DLL, but that's what gives it that Fallout 4 kind of a thing. A tick fix here. This one is supposed to prevent micro stuttering. It lets you have an HD Pip-Boy. Color sliders, it adds to the HUD. Command extender, you are going to need that. Many mods do use it. This fixes a mod limit, because even though it said 255, I believe that it was less than that. And the problem with the mod limit was, the reason you can only have like 255 mods, it uses the first 2 bytes. And the first 2 bytes, the maximum that can be is FF, which is 255. And the lowest that can be is 00. So it's, and if you count 00, you're talking what, 256 total? That'd be 256 plugins. That includes the official files. So the problem happens when you start to roll over, because it'll actually it actually overflows, and the way that it works when the register overflows is your carryover gets moved to a bit that's no longer a byte or 8 bits long. It gets moved into the 9th position. So what was all ones, which was 255, now shows all zeros with the carryover in the 9th position. But a byte doesn't use that 9th position, so it rolls back to 0. So then it overwrites whatever was in 0. So that's why in Vegas, when you had more than, like, let's say 150, 60 mods, you started all of a sudden getting triangles and purple textures, because it was overwriting that mod's ID, that mod's index, that 00, or that that identifier that it uses. Like if you're going into, let's say, I'm going to say like the console, and you click on something, the 00, which would normally be Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 as an example, but they use light plugins to extend it. But Fallout 3 or Vegas, that 00 might now be an armor mod. So every reference to the Fallout 3 stuff no longer exists, because those file references are now from the 00 data file, or the BSA, or the BA, I think it's BSA, not BH, it's BSA file. And therefore, all this crap starts showing up with just, you know, triangles and purple textures. That was that problem. I believe that fixes it, and I believe there's something in Vegas that will fix it. Other than that, UI organizer, I think I put that in there to make that I don't know. These are kind of, I'm not really sure about. I think I read about them and put them in there. Butcher Pete is probably something that extends something in the game. So those are, probably add some kind of extended functions or something. So those are the ones I had to add. Let me switch this back here to the plugin. Alright, so then you should be, if you do Fallout 3, you should be fairly safe with textures. Oh, there is a mod. I believe the memory fix, now that I think about it, this one here. Let me see here. I believe this one here. Normally with D3, D9, with the D9 DirectX API, it's the graphics API, it shadows, like if it loads something into graphics memory, it also shadows it into RAM. And normally with Steam, now this is not with GOG version, but with Steam, when they compiled it as a 32-bit. It's a 32-bit program, so they compiled it. It wasn't extended 32-bit, so it was 32-bit. So that means it could only access about 2 gigabytes of memory. So anything past 2 gigabytes would basically give a out of memory. It would give an out of memory error, and it would always crash. I encountered that. And then EMB was used to bank that. To bank the graphics into probably 2 gig blocks, and then therefore it would switch. It would determine which graphics you wanted, and then it would bank those back in. So it had to sit between the graphic calls and the card. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. And that's what EMB did. I think it was EMB Boost. I believe he called it Boost, and that's basically what he did. He just software bank switched 2 gigs of data. So once you loaded more graphics that went beyond 2 gigs, he created another 2 gig block, and then he put those file references in that 2 gig block. So when you were looking for it, he would either copy, instead of it copying it from RAM back into the GPU cache, he would copy it from his location, because he created these multiple 2 gigabyte blocks. But other than that, that prevents, if I'm not mistaken, that prevents. And there might be another one too, but what it does, it inhibits the DirectX 9 from shadowing graphics in RAM, which gives you more RAM available for your application. So if you had a lot of if you had a lot of high graphics, it would actually soak up, because you can only have 2 gigabytes. Now you can extend it, and that's what they call the 4 gig patcher. And what it does, it just changes 1 byte in the executable header, which says I can allocate 4 gigs. So the maximum you could have was 4 gigs. So that's what that does, or not. That's not what that does. Now that's what the patcher does, but it only does it to the 2 gig version. The GOG is now 4 gigs, so it's automatically done, so you don't have to fool with it. And I use the GOG version. But what I believe what the memory fix does is, it also might do memory leaks, because I think there might have been a memory leak issue with the game. But one of those DLLs, and I'm thinking it's that one, actually keeps from shadowing graphics into RAM. So graphics are only loaded directly into VRAM, and that leaves more program RAM available. So you can put more things in the game and not have it completely crash out. I did, with Fallout 3, it does not come with iron sights. So there's 2 different types of iron sights. One is Fossey, another is something like True Iron Sights. I use the Fossey version. Project Beauty changes the way they look. I added, let's see, there's the unofficial patch from here down to here. Then I installed additions or corrections to the unofficial patch, which was this stuff. The UI, Darnified UI, that's the interface I use to make it, fit more in the screen and not look basically like it came from 2008. Let's see. There's a lot of animated meshes. That's what these things are. They're animated meshes here. You've got these are animated meshes. So one of them, the traffic light will actually blink. So if you look like a post-apocalyptic where there's still some intermittent power, you can have the traffic lights blink. You can have the trees sway. I have different trees in there with Flora Overhaul. That adds like more grass, I think, and it adds a lot of trees. So it kind of looks a little bit grown up. But you can have, there's so many different animated things. I have now your little microfiche readers will now basically throw the slides up that they throw up at the beginning of the game. That one's in there. I added a few more hair, hairstyles. I thought that was kind of neat. You can now zoom with the, I put zooming, sniper zooming, so now you can zoom with the scroll wheel. Advanced Recon, you don't necessarily need that. That adds infrared vision, things like that. I've never really used it. It might not even work. I haven't even tried it, but I haven't really used it yet. Craft lets you craft ammo at workbenches. It's not quite as smooth as Vegas or even as smooth as Fallout 4, but it does work. Vehicles in the Wasteland, I wanted to put more cars. It was truly too sparse. In Fallout 3, the Wasteland was just simply too sparse. Bus World lets you get inside buses. Buses, you can now enter them through the doors and exit. They are now like a world space. This dangerous radiation pools means radiation pools now smolder, and they definitely will kill you quick. This just changes. These change the robots. I wanted a different robot look, so these just change the way they look. This is that little ghoul. It's like a little ghoul child you find under a bridge. It's like a follower. That's the little dude that did. Or actually, it's a girl. Actually, she disappeared somewhere. I couldn't find her. So they do have a hard time keeping up with the player. Not really sure why. But it's a really cool mod, and it's well voiced. I think it's AI voiced now that I think about it. I would definitely add Marts. Marts is just something that is almost a given with an older game. I do have some crashes with this occasionally. It's all of these files. It adds different monsters, different levels of monsters. Some of the animations are kind of janky. Like the boars are really janky. So, I wouldn't, you know, those are, yeah, I mean, if you can ignore that, like, I don't really see a lot of them. The Wanamingos are a pain in the tail to kill. They must have, like, a ton of health. And also, some of the creatures almost seem to have weak spots. So, like, in other words, like, where you have locational damage, now some body parts will actually cause more damage as a whole. And I think it's like floaters. You hit those little bitty, like, flap that comes out of them or something. I'm not sure what they are. Quieter mole rats. The problem with the reason I had to put this in is there's iguanas in Fallout 3, and it shares the mole rat stepping sound, and it's way too loud. And you're sitting out there and you hear like you're like, Jesus, what is that? You know, and all of a sudden you can't see anything, and there's this little bitty green thing, man. It's not even like a foot long, trucking in the grass, and you're like, oh my god. So yeah, that knocks all that down. Ghoul body. I think this is a graphic change to the bodies of the ghouls. Feral ghoul lines, I'm not really sure, but I think that's just something. If it's in the NPC section, which I believe it is. Yeah, see up here, it's in the NPC section. So it probably changes the way they look. Oh, feral ghoul lines. I know what that is now. That is audio. If I go over to the mod, which is here, and we take a look at the files. Yeah, I believe this. Oh, I know what this does. This, since there's no audio files to this was cut content. So there was ghoul sounds in there that it adds to the ghoul sound list. I wanted to change the Pip-Boy light. Hopefully that would make the light seem more realistic. I chose dynamic weathers. I got fog, which kind of fogs things up. If it's working correctly, it might be overridden. One of the spaces might be overridden by maybe this lighting mod. I'm not sure, but I wanted it to override everything else. There's your iron sights, street lights, radiation effect. That makes, when I take too much damage, it'll actually, I'll get really hazy. Ragdoll overhaul. I believe that makes them fall better so they don't literally go flying through the air. I think this is the new skeleton. I believe that's the new skeleton with the new attach points and all that. And then, of course, I have LOD last. And that's pretty much it. I got even their grenade explosions. I like the grenade explosions better. But other than that, that's pretty much all I have. It's not really a lot. Yeah, dynamic weather and street lights and stuff like that. It's not really a lot. And it actually looks pretty cool. We'll fire it off here. And hopefully this won't actually make me into a fibber by crashing right off the bat. Since when it comes to Bethesda games, if it crashes, I'm like, you know what, man, I don't doubt it. Alright. Made it this far, so this might be a good thing. Alright, so let's load her up. And it takes a couple seconds to load it up. But see, this is the darnified UI look. That's what all this is. So you can see over to the right, And you can tell that the slide really doesn't expand out, which it really shouldn't, because it would look incredibly stretched and it would look really bad. Alright, so see, this is inside Megaton. Like I say, with new graphic cards, the frame rates are pretty good. But this is RH Iron Sights. I don't have a... Let me get a sniper rifle. Let me grab my sniper rifle. And I did change the Pip-Boy. There are some graphic mods in here. Something that, you know, anything that would make it look more... so you can zoom in, zoom out. Anything that would make it look more kind of realistic, I guess. Yeah, even the weapons. So, and there's still not all the graphic mods I want to put in here. I just kind of wanted to get the base game or something going that I could play and use. And I don't want this to carry on too long, because I know it's already a pretty long video as it is. Let me get my good machine gun here. So, and if you add Eve or anything like that, you'll have to have the patch to fix the iron sights. But this is, and the weather looks really cool. Some of the weathers look amazing. I did some any edits. Let me go out here and take a shot. I did some any edits, which are over this way. And you can tell when you look at them, if you go to the top, anything, now some of this may be, the way that it came. Like I say, anything that's purple was changed. Now, whether it was supplied this way as a default or whether I changed it, it's really hard to say. Because preload size limit, I don't think I would have changed that. I don't believe I changed it. I could be wrong, but I don't think I changed it. Volume occlusion volumes, this is probably different from whatever the default is, so this might be like a high-res setting. I do know the decal LOD I might have changed. The light range, I believe I changed all of this. So you can kind of see it. Later on, I'm actually gonna put in some code to extract the differences, the file names and the differences, so they can easily be imported in. Anything that's gray, I don't have a default. This means I don't have a default for it. So in the file, what I usually did is took the file off. There's the step guide for the games has a file with it. Just shows like all the defaults, I guess, that he had ripped out of the game or extracted from the game, and then I just take that format and then I just wrote code to import it in, and that's the differences that you see. Of course, the fonts are going to be different because I have Darnified UI. But that's what this is. So if you need something like this, I could easily just... the code is real simple to export it. And I'm going to need it anyways. So eventually when I export this as how to build up the game, I'm going to have any settings that I use. And I'm going to do other things as well. So, you know, different options depending on very, very, very surface level options. And then let it really calculate everything under the hood. So that's kind of that, but that's what I did for Fallout 3. So if you decide to play it, good luck. I mean, it's fun. I mean, it runs pretty good. You've got it takes a while to get used to the keyboard shortcuts. I probably could make them the same as Fallout 4. I've just never done that. But once you kind of get used to it, I'll probably have to learn Fallout 4 all over again, because I think I changed the shortcuts to that as well. But we'll hop out here real quick, take a look, and then I want to kind of cut this video short because this is a long video and I know it's going to be boring as heck to have to watch. But it is pretty stable. It does occasionally crash with something weird. I don't know if it's a robot issue. Now you see that black box? That's that black box fix. But see, you can see the fog in the distance. I think it adds that distant fog back in there, which adds a little bit to the way it looks. And you can tell there's a little bit of a hit. I don't think the engine's quite designed for that. But see how it layered that fog? So it looks a little bit more like where there's a lot of dust or something. And that guy always runs. I don't know what.
Commencing attack.
Okay, so let me deal with this guy here. Oh he's stuck. I think he killed the robot. Now that was a Mart mod. Oh my god, he killed the robot. I wonder if I can resurrect him. Oh man, I did the Alguai. Where's the Alguai? I did the wrong one. Okay, not that one. There, let's try that one. There we go. Alright, let me see if I can kill this Alguai again. Oh man, it thinks the Alguai is alive. Oh god. That might crash the game eventually. Since it thinks this dude is alive, so it looks like it disconnected all the body parts. That's what I was talking about, this little guy here. And look at this little guy is tough. Oh, don't tell me I don't have any more. Look! Like a shotgun blast! I think that's a little bit ridiculous for an iguana. Gee whiz. Oh, dude, who just... Well, I guess... Who is that? Well, I guess you can't shoot iguanas around Lucas Sims. Okay. Alright. Let me load this back. Yeah, we're not dealing with that garbage. Alright. So, anyways, that is that. And that's how it looks. And that's the fog look. So, good luck with it. If you have any problems or questions, just give me a holler. And, I'll see what I can do. What, is this thing back again? Wait, that dude ran. Oh, I see it now. Oh, gonna get stuck. Yep, I got stuck. Man, these people are insane. Okay. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and cut this short. Good luck with it. Let me know if you need any help, and I'll see what I can do to help out.